what are we doing in the black community? The number one consumer of a Mercedes-Benz is us. The number one consumer of a Gucci and a Louis Vuitton, us. And they don't even advertise. Why is it that in the black community, we are always the number one consumer, but we're not the number one creators?
So you just said it, the fact that there's consumers and creators. For so long, we assume success based on consumption.
Welcome back to Closing the Gap, the truth about black wealth. Of course, I'm Mr. Woodward Hamilton, along with my co-host, Mr. Andy Richardson, here on the V90.9 WATV. Back for another wonderful episode, continue bringing you great information, a lot of insight, a lot of application, hopefully that you can, a lot of information that you can turn this application into your daily lives. Hoping to make your 2025 great. So we want to talk about, what is your maintenance plan? What are you doing to not just continue to improve yourself, but also if you're doing a great job of moving things in the right direction, we got to maintain that progress. And of course, just like a nice car, a nice automobile, when it's running nice and running smooth, you got to keep it maintenance. And they say if you maintain it the right way, it'll run forever. So we want to do that with our lives as well, in our finances, with our health, with our families, our spiritual walks and spiritual journeys and things of that nature. So we want to just kind of talk a little bit about today and, what can we do better? What can we improve? Of course, I tell my clients all the time, consistently doing the right things over a long period of time is what generates success. We got to consistently stay, moving in the right direction, moving in the right track. And every now and then some changes have to be made to, to keep that consistent rolling. So we know things don't stay the same. Things change. Just like we got a new administration going into effect in 2025. Our lives have changed. Some people, new jobs. Some people, roles and responsibilities changed at their current job. So, kids going to different grades and, want to keep matriculating up and, some kids going into the workforce. So we want to make sure that, we're giving you enough information and trying to equip you to continue to, maintain yourself, but also better yourself. To whom much is given, much is required. We've learned in today's day and time. So we want to continue to push forward and move here. But, this time I want to turn it over to Mr. Richardson and see what he has to say about, what can help us push forward and maintain into 2025.
Yes. Appreciate that, Wilbert. And yes, thank you for this opportunity. And we're always glad to be able to speak to our listeners. We appreciate you all listening and tuning in on various podcasts and YouTube and anywhere you get podcast outlets, and especially V94.9. But how can we move forward? I think you hit one thing that you did say that as we talked about before we got on the show today is what type of administration are you guiding yourself in? We have a new administration coming in the office into the presidency, and as different people take office and things change, we also need to take the time to examine ourselves and what are we doing and how are we doing things. The way that you are operating right now, is it the most effective thing for your life currently, right? Oftentimes we can get into a good mode. We can get to rolling and going good and things are going well. And we feel like, okay, I found my groove. And so let me stay right there. And I do believe that that's a good thing. But I was talking to one of my friends that bowls a lot. And he was saying that, man, somebody that most people are right-handed. And he said on the bowling lane, when you're competing, the oil on that lane gets worn out with all of the right-hand bowlers. So he said if somebody is bowling in that lane that bowls left hand, they're going to have a smoother path and they're going to be able to get more strikes if they can bowl because they're taking somewhat of the road that's less traveled, right? Sure. And so oftentimes now we need to take that type of examination also, that as we are living our lives, how are we handling ourselves? Are we just going in the same lane as everybody else? And that lane is just getting worn out, worn down, and it's dragging us down. A lot of times our spirits are going down. We're losing our finances because we're trying to do what everybody else is doing. We're walking that same pathway. So as we get ready to move into 2025, we want to invite you all to take the time, number one, examine what you're doing. Is it the most effective thing for your life? And if it is, how can you improve it? as Wilbur had just said, when we drive our vehicles, and we have, some of us have good vehicles, new vehicles, but everything needs maintenance. Like, you have to get oil changes, you have to get your tires rotated so that your vehicle can operate at peak performance. And so that's what we want you to do, you all to do. And that's why we're here talking about this today, is how can you examine yourself for peak performance? Number one, I'm always on the spiritual side. Will is more on the financial side, but we both kind of intertwine in that. That's why we're here talking to you today. So I want you to examine, what is your relationship with God like? How can you make improvements? What is your fellowship with your fellow persons? Where are you going to church right now? Is that church the best place for you? Is it feeding you? Are the people there of the right spirit and the right mindset for where God has you to go? Now, in order to do that, you have to examine yourself first at home, right? You have to worship at home first to see if that's exactly the place for you in this current time. So we want you to take the time, examine yourself, and administer a better health plan for yourself spiritually and then also financially. So on the financial part, what would you say is the best way to move forward going into 2025 to help us maintain better financial stability?
It always boils down back to, in order to get where you want to go, you got to know where you're at. It's always starting off in the present, and so just doing like self-evaluation and just self-reflection. I think, all too often we like to gloss over the areas of our life that probably cause us the most pain, but they probably cause us the most pain because we pay the least amount of attention to it, because we don't want to address the elephant in the room, so to speak. We want to ignore it, hope it's going to go away. And, of course, what we don't address, problems only get bigger and bigger. And they compound over time. So it's kind of like our health and everything else. If we don't address the issue, it's going to lead to something else, and something else is going to lead to something else. So it just makes the problem worse. So just doing that self-evaluation, self-reflection, it's a self-assessment, saying, what, how much do I got coming in versus how much I got going out? Just doing a simple budget. This is always a great time of year to do that, because most people overspend during this time of year trying to, bless people and trying to, give the kids too much and probably give them stuff they probably don't deserve. Wanting to be a blessing, to help other people. All those things are good. And we love this time of year because, we want people to receive. And, most people, feel good about giving, and you want to give. But sometimes you have to take a step back and examine and see, can you afford to give? Sometimes I've learned that you might have to be a little bit selfish. You might have to give to yourself first. So, what? I would like to go ahead and buy these kids all these toys and, give the kids all the Jordans and all the different things that they want. But it might be in my best interest to pay down this credit card. Because if I can go ahead and start paying down this credit card, it may put me in a better situation when it's time for that child to maybe trying to go to college, or it's time to pay for some entrance exams, some application fees and things of that nature that's going to come about. If I was spending all my money on Jordans and on Gucci and on shoes and clothes and video games and Fortnite and all these type of things, well, have I spent my money in a wise place? Right. There's no return on my investment. So, that's one of the things I tell people, because, we always talk about, stocks and bonds and mutual funds and my land of things, and, what kind of return on the investment am I going to get for making this? I'm like, well, let's take a look and, see what kind of return on investment are you going to get into doing that self-maintenance and that administration into your life. Obviously the greatest investment you can make is one into yourself. Yeah. Whether that's health, whether that's spiritual, and whether that's financial. So just doing some self-reflection. It's funny to me at this time of year, I spend a lot of time, diving into the books of my business. Okay. And I do an examination every year. Yeah. From a business standpoint, and analyzing, what worked, what didn't work, what I should do, what I shouldn't do, what areas I need to improve in, what areas I need to spend more money in. But, I'm like, I spend more time analyzing the business than I do probably analyzing myself. And so I have to take my own advice and take a step back and do some self-evaluation, some self-reflection. And, something else you said too, that just kind of sparked something. What I heard, and I thought about, are we operating in our gift? We talk about making that investment and, that return on investment and that maintenance, and are we getting, out of things what we put into them? And a lot of times, I don't think there's going to be return on investment because we're not operating in the areas that God told us to operate in. You know, a lot of times, you know, we like to place ourselves in certain positions because it's what we want. Versus, hey, you know, did we have that conversation with God that said to tell us what direction we should go? You know, I feel like I'm blessed because I've truly found my calling and my passion because, you know, God gave me a passion and dream to say, you know what, I want you to teach people how to create generational wealth. And I'm on that same passion and mission, you know, ever since probably 2008 when I woke up one morning with that vision. And so for me, I know because I'm operating in my gift has always made room for me and has always brought about, you know, other opportunities and kept me in a place where I haven't worried about, is the success going to come? I just kind of got to do the work. I said, one of the things I've learned is, you know, in this process is, you know, my own evaluation, I got to make sure I do more self-maintenance because I do so much pouring out and I have to make sure I'm getting back what I've brought, which is why I'm blessed and which is why I try to connect with great brothers. And this is why I stay connected to Brother Richardson, because he continues to pour into me in ways that sometimes he doesn't even understand that I need because of what I do for a living, because of, you know, my calling, my passion of trying to help and give. And it kind of goes into a lot of things that we're talking about right now. And, you know, a lot of us are taking information from places and that we should be taking the information from. You know, I'm always a big person of, you know, yeah, you can listen to anybody, but everybody don't need to give you the advice. You know, all too often nowadays, we're taking information from unsolicited sources and uneducated sources. But because we've seen someone do something, we assume and we place credence and credibility that because it worked for them and it worked for me, and we haven't done that real self-evaluation to understand, well, their situation is different from mine. Right. You know, we're not wanting the same. So, you know, doing that self-maintenance and that self-check and just looking into our own lives. I think if we took a deeper dive and we took a step back and use this time of year to not just, you know, tell God thank you for all he's done for us and thank him for the gifts that we're going to receive, you know, but the greatest gift we got is life. Yeah. And being able to appreciate that and understand who is the giver of life, and asking him, what does he want us to do with this life? I think that's a big key to success or lack thereof, is because we're not asking God, am I doing what you want me to do? And what would you have me to do with the blessing that you've given me? And I'm a big believer that we're all blessed to be a blessing. And I tell people to look at things this way. God don't give you a gift that's only going to benefit you. Well, that's my opinion. I think any gift that God has ever given has been a benefit to you, but also people around you. Somebody else has benefited from a gift that God gave you. The devil can give gifts too. He can give you some of your harsh desires, but it's to keep you in bondage. So when people say, man, you know, the Lord blessed me with a new car, I'm like, was that God giving you that car? Or was it the devil giving you that car that you really can't afford, that's going to keep you trapped in this circumstance and keep you in bondage from a payment plan where you can't save? You can't put money away for your kids to go to college. You can't buy the insurance. You can't get yourself to a sound place where you can move forward systematically and get to a place where you can take a deep breath and breathe and have some peace about your life. Because you looked at a situation where you thought that new car was a blessing, when really it was more bondage. So, you know, that wasn't a gift from God. That was the devil keeping you where you at. So, and the devil knows what we like. Yeah. He gives us, like I say, those harsh desires, things that he know we're striving to break against. He's going to test us by putting those things there. And until we get to a place of self-evaluation, we can learn to say no and say, you know what? I'm not ready for that just yet. Not that I don't want the car, but it's just not time for the car.
The car at that specific.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah. So what I hear is Proverbs 16:3 from summing up some of what you said. Commit yourself to the Lord in whatever you do, and he will establish your plans.
Yes, sir.
So first of all, when we talking about maintaining ourselves, checking where is our commitment lie, right? When you are committed to yourself, then that's when Satan comes in with that deception and tells you, hey, you deserve this, right? Well, it's not so much about what you deserve, it's about the timing for things, right? And that's where Satan can come in and deceive you, because you can get in your own mind and saying what you want because you work so hard and all of these things, and then now you hadn't talked to God about it. You hadn't talked to your creator about any of that, but you are going off that deception that now Satan has started playing in your head and telling you what you deserve. You work hard and all these things, but now you've sacrificed your success. You've sacrificed really investing for your children's future. All right. We want to, as you said earlier, sometimes we go in this time of year during Christmas season, we go into more debt thinking that we are actually giving gifts, but don't realize that the greatest gift is sustainability. Right? Sustainability for the long term, especially when you don't know how a new administration is going to change things. Right? We already see a lot of cutting back in things. We see how high inflation is. The price of food and the price of living has gone up tremendously.
Absolutely.
So is this the right time for you to buy that car, like you said? Or is it just Satan's deception in your mind telling you that you want these things? So like you said earlier, who are you surrounding yourself around with? Who are you speaking with? As you said, you surround yourself with me, and I appreciate you because likewise, me being around you helps me to grow, helps me to be better because it challenges me to stay in the face of God and stay on point. With doing these types of shows, it also does the same thing that now I feel the responsibility to help God's people live a better life. Not that I have all the answers, nor do you have all the answers, but we seek God first to give us the words to speak, to encourage the listeners to also seek God for yourself. We're not saying now we are well studied in our craft. Right. We are somewhat what the world would say experts, but we are not telling you these things because we want you to give us credit. No, we're telling you these things because we have studied to show ourselves approved as good workmen, to do what God desires us to do in the crafts that God and the gifts that God has given us.
Absolutely.
You in financial management, me in the spiritual aspect and relationships and fellowship with our fellow people. So we come to you today to tell you how to maintain yourself by getting back to the basics of who you are and where you come from. And that is building your relationship with God, number one, and paying attention to who you listen to for everything. You first have to listen to God. And in order to do so, you have to quiet a lot of other things.
Absolutely.
You get there are a lot of experts out here, right? There are a lot of people that are doing what we're doing, right? There are a lot of podcasts. There are a lot of people on TikTok that have great advice. And there are people in your neighborhood that are telling you all sorts of things. And all of it has a sprinkle of truth on it, right? If you coat anything with some sugar, it can almost taste good. Right. But what's in the substance of that thing? If you remove the sugar from it, how does it taste? If you remove the salt from it, how does it taste? Is it, and then even if it doesn't necessarily taste good, is it actually good for me?
Absolutely.
Because sometimes the things that taste good, seem good, feel good are not substantively, they are not good for me. Right. So we have to scrape everything down to the base. When we're talking about maintaining yourself, we're talking about getting back down to the foundation of life, removing all your likes and desires and getting down to true substance of where is it that I need to be going? What is it that I need to be doing right now? And how do I need to do it? What is the plan for my life right now?
Yeah.
As I stated just a moment ago by Proverbs 16:3, it says, commit to the Lord whatever you do and he will establish your plans. So we want you to come up with a sound plan for your life to maintain your spiritual health, your financial health, and your relationship with your family and your fellow man. And it all starts with prayer and seeking experts to guide you on the right path.
Boy, Mama said, man, everything look good to you, boy, ain't good for you. And leaning into that is, one of those verses that always sticks with me is a man skillful in his work is going to be placed before great men. So when you're seeking God, and you're praying to God, God is going to reveal things to you. And as long as you're working to be an expert in your craft, God has always already made the promise that he's going to place you in front of great men. So hopefully you can then do great things for God's people. See you in a minute. Thanks. And of course, welcome back to Closing the Gap. Of course, we're here having a wonderful day, continuing on great conversation, information for you. Like I say, to whom much is given, much is required. We take that, with great pride, and great reverence of being in the position to be able to provide you with information that can be, beneficial, and useful to you in your everyday life. These are things that, I don't believe in just speaking about it. We be about it. These are things that we live, from a day-to-day standpoint. And, want to talk about that organized noise. It's a lot of cooler talk, as they say. I see it every day because people come to my office and I ask them, I say, well, why did you choose these particular retirement investments at work? Why did you, choose this particular allocation? They always say, well, this is what my coworker was doing, or my friend was doing this, or, why did you invest in that? Well, my neighbor said that it worked out good for him. I'm like, well, just because it was good for them don't mean that it's automatically going to be good for you. So, we got to take that self-evaluation and seek help. And I always tell people the first place you got to seek help is in Christ. You got to seek God first, because without the relationship with God and without digging into that word, you won't have the discernment you need in order to make the good decision. And I think that's where a lot of us get lost. We start to seek help, but then we start taking the help from anywhere that's available. And because of social media and because of all the means that's available now to consume information, whether it's accurate or inaccurate. I always tell people, I say, look, Google don't fact check. They not fact checking anything, but it's a lot of information and content out there. So being able to, take a step back and hear and seek God first. And once you start doing that, now God can give you some discernment so you can know and evaluate who to receive your message from. Like I'm very cognizant. I've always been blessed with a strong spirit of discernment. I can see a lot of BS coming from, a mile away. So I'm one of those people, when I see it, I go ahead and remove myself from it and take a step back, which is, it's always made me very cognizant and very careful and aware of where I get my message from, which I can't listen to a lot of people. It's ironic that, I believe in being well studied, but I don't read actually a lot of financial books. Mm-hmm. The reason why is, and people always ask me, like, well, what books do you read? I'm like, don't get me wrong. I read educational information to study and keep myself up on information I need to know for my craft. But from just a self-help and guru standpoint, I don't read those kind of books. I'm like, the only book that I read will be the Bible. Because I feel like the Bible got the answer to every question you got. There's a story in everything that'll give you something that you can take in and digest. And I've learned that as your walk with God grows, you can now go back and reread those same scriptures and get a totally different meaning from them. Because you have a different vision, because you have a different understanding and a different relationship, God slowly, like it's like that onion, he's just peeling back a layer at a time. He said, okay, I gave you this much this time, but now I can give you a little bit more. I can give you a greater understanding. But until you come talk to me first and I can give you some discernment. And then as you grow, I can reveal more and more to you to help you with your maintenance plan as we go along into 2025.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, because it's too much organized noise. And I would even venture to say that it's organized gossip that's going on. There are groups of people that all get together and they begin to say the same things, and none of it has any foundational value. All of it is unfounded. It's just all ideas, because everybody is selling something. Everybody's selling their own propaganda.
Yeah.
They want you to buy into their plan. They want you to buy their self-help book. And we're not knocking anybody that's trying to sell and make money, right? We'll never do that. But what we want all of our listeners and the people that tune in on YouTube to realize is that you have to be careful with these things. You have to realize that you have to pay attention to the angle that somebody's coming from. Why are they doing what they're doing? See, like for us right here, right? All right, we're just trying to help everyone get to the place that God has in store for them. Right? We want you to be cognizant of the voices that are out here. Just because they are the loudest voices doesn't necessarily mean that they are the voices that you need to listen to. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are the ones that really have your best interest in mind, right? They're trying to sell you something. They're trying to get you to buy into their program to help them be better, but they're not trying to help you be better. They don't desire you to have a relationship with God, number one. If you pay attention to what we always say, we're trying to get you in tune with God, number one, foundationally, to be able to direct your path. Absolutely. We have some things that we could tell you to do personally. Like if you come and sit down with Wilbert, he definitely can lead you and give you a financial plan to help you be successful. But first and foremost, what he's going to want you to do is come to see him if God has led you to come see him. Absolutely. Right? And that's what we want you to do, is to be God-led in every single thing that you do. Guard your heart, guard your mind, guard your ears from all the noise that is out here. As we move into 2025, we're going to see and hear more and more propaganda. It's already started, right? You have billionaires that own all these different media outlets, social media outlets, all of these different things. They're in it to make money. They're in it to sell a dream is what they're doing. And if you don't guard yourself from those things, you will be buying somebody else's dream to the point that you don't even know what your own dream is. You'll be able to be investing in somebody else's vision and not even have a vision of your own, and not even realize what your vision needs to be or how you need to move forward and do what God wants you to do, because the organized gossip has overtaken you too much, right? So we want you to be careful. You need to put some blockers on. You need to put your earplugs in. You need to put your blinders on your eyes. You need to sit down and write your own plan out for what it is that you need to do. And you need to move forward in getting that thing done each and every day. And that's how you're going to be well.
You know, tying into that, and that's why I say you always got to start with that self-reflection and evaluation. And it's like I said, it's the perfect time for you to do that and kind of and let them see what changes we want to make, what things we want to do differently, because, you know, we all make mistakes. You know, we all fall short. We all got areas where we can improve in and improve upon. So, you know, first step, taking that accountability, you know, and then seeking help. I feel like in our community, all too often, we try to be jacks of all trades and masters of none. You know, I have to say this, other communities do a better job of seeking professional help, which is why they get professional results. We wanted to get, why does that car keep running? I bought a car, you know, some years back, and I bought a Mercedes. And the guy told me, said, well, this is an amazing car. And he said, if you maintenance this car properly, you should easily get 300,000 miles out of this car. Now, when I bought the car, it had about 50,000 miles on it. And it was in great shape, certified, pre-owned, the whole 9 yards. Beautiful car. To this day, the car still looks exactly the same. It's got 195,000 miles on it right now, but still runs the same today as it did when I got it and it had 50,000 miles on it, because I kept it maintenance. I didn't use a shade tree mechanic. I took it to Mercedes. I always got authentic Mercedes parts to put on that car. And this is one thing I learned along the way. because I was looking at buying another car at that time.
Yeah.
And it was another Mercedes. And they brought the car in and I looked at it. And I said, well, let the windows down while we ride so I could hear if anything is structurally wrong. It was coming up on a light and I heard this terrible screeching sound. I'm like, man, what in the world is that? I'm like, man, I'm talking about this sound like a 72 Buick with the rotors and the brakes completely going on. I'm like, man, this don't make no sense. And I'm like, this can't be this car. And we started driving again. And we came to the like, stop again, heard the same noise. I'm like, hold on. This is a fairly new Mercedes. This car should not sound like this. And so we took it to the Mercedes dealership and I let them take a look at it. And they came back and said, Mr. Hamilton, I got good news and bad news about this car. Yeah, bro. I said, well, we're giving the good news. He said, the good news is structurally, this car is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I said, well, what's the bad news? He said they use aftermarket parts on the car. And because they use aftermarket parts, that's what caused the screeching sound that came from the car. So, and I'm like, well, why did that happen? They said, well, because when we looked up the records in the car, they didn't take it to a Mercedes dealership. They took it to a shade tree mechanic and got some off-brand work done to the car. And in our community, all too often, I feel like that's what we're doing. We're getting off-brand work done. You know, it's work that it could be just as good if everything works right. Yeah. But we come to find out it ain't working out as good, and we're getting 50% of the results that we could get. Now, nobody wants to get a 50% return on the investment. If you ask a person what they want, I want a 100% return on my money. Well, guess what? You can't get a 100% return on your money when you're putting out 50% into the situation. You got to give in order to get. And that's what we got to get to and understand in our community, that we got to seek that professional help. So if you don't have a church home, that means seeking a church home, seeking God and letting God lead you to the right church home. There's nothing wrong with evaluating, right? You know, more than one church home. You know, you go and evaluate, you know, what type of car you want to buy. You go and evaluate what kind of shoes you want to buy. You know, what kind of clothes you want to buy. Well, guess what? You can go and evaluate what kind of church you want to attend and figure out a place that works for you and where does God speak to you. Because there's enough places of worship that we don't necessarily care where you worship. Right. As long as you're being fed and God is giving you what you need to receive in that particular moment in time to be the best that you can be, that's all we want to have happen. But we want to see that same thing happen in your finances, with your health, you know, finding the right gym. That's right. I just joined a new gym. Okay. You know, the one I had, like, you know, it didn't quite give me everything that I needed. It was a couple pieces of equipment that I wanted to have access to that they didn't have, you know. So I joined the new gym, and we're gonna try that one out. We're gonna start that one out on a good foot so we can get in there. So in 2025, I can upgrade my maintenance plan. You know, I need to continue to improve. I need to be able to be steady, to steady the course, because I want to be able to continue to come and give you all great information, great content. We want to uplift. We want to build. You know, I can't do what God has called me to do if I ain't doing my own self-check, my own maintenance. And I got to do a better job at that, just like all of us, because we all have areas we need to improve, man. None of us are perfect. We all fall short of God's glory. So being able to accept accountability and being able to take constructive criticism, that is something that's big in our community that we have lost. We don't like to be criticized anymore. We don't like for people to tell us that, hey, you know what? You're not living up to your expectations. You're not getting the job done. We need to do better. Yeah. And we all need to do that. And now, for some of us, it comes in different ways. For me, I need to do a better job with my health. For you, it may be a better job in your walk with Christ. It could be better job in your finances. It could be being more disciplined. It could be in your relationship, cutting off that person you know you need to cut off that you let keep coming back into your life. That's draining you financially, spiritually, emotionally, whatever it may be. God's going to tell you what you need to do. But if you're not in church, if you don't have that relationship with Christ, he can't give you that spirit of discernment so you can hear him tell you what you need to do. And I'm always, you know, of course, looking to hear, you know, how a man of God sees that and, you know, to help us, because like I say, I need help just like everybody else.
Yeah, I think So in maintenance in ourselves and doing those things are a couple of things. Number one, how do you start your day? Having a set plan to start the day with meditation, prayer, and reflection, and then also planning for that day, right? After I meditate, pray, and reflect on what has happened already in the past, now that prepares me for what I'm going towards in this day. Also being able to do that in a quiet space, right? We have to do that away from the phone, away from the television and these things, right? I was thinking about it earlier today that when we're riding in our cars a lot of times, now we have phones in our hands and we're supposed to be hands free, but people are reading and doing things on the phone constantly. I remember before phones, I used to see people reading newspaper at that point, driving the car, right, on their commute. So allowing ourselves to have dedicated quiet space at home, but also utilizing our travel time for that as well, right, to let our minds get focused. Also, what you said before about what you read, right, that, okay, you don't read every single thing and everybody's financial advice in the business that you're in, nor do I do that either. I don't read everybody's spiritual books and self-help books, right? Because I don't know what God has them doing. So unless God allowed me to read that text, I don't read it. You know, some of it I do, but it's all in accordance with where God is leading me. So we want you also to pay attention to what you're reading. You need to read, right? But what are the things that you're taking the time to read and invest in yourself in that way? Also, what type of community have you surrounded yourself with, right? Who are the people around you? When Wilbert said earlier about evaluating your place of worship, right? That's the community. That's the people that you gather like-minded to worship God and praise God's name. And also, these are the people that you build with, you know, that you build life with. So what type of community gathering are you in church, but also on your job and away from your job? What type of civic organizations are you in? We talked about it on a previous episode about getting in these different civic organizations and churches and being able to hold ourselves accountable, right? And when you're in the right groups, that's when you can accept constructive criticism because you've surrounded yourself with people that you know and people that you trust. So that's a main point that we need you to take going into 2025 in order to maintain yourself is surrounding yourself with the right people where you worship and the type of community gathering you are in, even the people in around your home or wherever you live. Also, in doing that, I say you need to have some type of study group, right? Yeah. Some type of study group, some people that you build with. The scripture talks about iron sharpens iron, right? And so you need people around you that are on the same type of trajectory that you are on. Then also, you need to take the time to serve somebody else, right? What good is it to take in all these different things if you're not able to go out and give some of it out? You know, take the time to find places to volunteer. And then that's what's going to guide you toward your personal growth is doing those things. And so these are ways that we believe that you can maintain yourself going into the new year, because we don't know what the new year holds. We don't know what the new administration is going to do. We don't have any idea. But in the church, we always talk about, we don't know what the future holds, but we know who holds the future.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, going to 2025, I tell people, you are what you eat, and we ain't just talking about food. See you next time.
Yes, indeed.